Welcome, guys. It's time for some more SPL action here, excuse me. At the next arena, you can see some live footage here of outside the studio. I am Wolf. With me is Valdez today, and we've got two more great matches coming at you.
We had some sick matches yesterday, Wolf, but today, the last four teams that did not play yesterday are going to come head-to-head in a couple of great matches. You guys can expect some amazing StarCraft tonight. Tell your friends, get on the SNS, and spread the word. Yeah,
definitely tonight not going to be as high profile as what we saw yesterday, but the matches are really important. We're starting things off here with Samsung versus StarTale-yoe, and it's going to be a really good matchup just because these two teams are sending out rosters that are pretty evenly matched. You know, it's hard to argue one way or the other that one matchup is highly favored over the other. But there are definitely some favored matchups. We'll get into that a little bit later. But this matchup really is important for both teams. And StarTale really trying to prove themselves here. This is their first time playing in Pro League. They partner with YOE. As we mentioned before, you know, this is a newer league for a lot of these players. Some of these players used to playing in Taiwan and playing over there in those leagues, playing in some online leagues. Many of them used to playing in the GSTL Linux, for example. But here's the Samsung team with those very fancy jackets. They're 1-1 with a +1 indicator.
Yeah, man. I'm so interested to see this team come out time and time and again because they brought such an interesting lineup the last time against Prime. I mean, everybody was saying, oh, they're not picking their best players against Prime, but those players really performed. Really, really impressive play out of those guys so far with a non-standard lineup. And, of course, on the other side, we got StarTale-yoe Flash Wolves. Our first game tonight is going to be eMotion versus San.
Well, something to note, and this is very important, I really want to highlight this, is that the StarTale-yoe team has brought very few players to the studio today. And what that means, actually, is that a lot of the players are staying at home practicing. They're not here to support their teammates because, you know, the coach is saying, you guys just can't come today. You're not where you need to be in the internal rankings. You're not playing today. You're definitely not coming out in any ace matches. You need to stay home and practice.
Yeah, it's great to see. We saw some of that out of the KT coach as well, where he was telling his players, you guys don't win, you got to practice more and more. A lot of these teams are beginning to realize that the competition is even higher than last season, and they have to come out here extremely practiced with prepared builds, even more so than last year. It's really exciting to see this get harder and harder for the players and just get to see more impressive play time and time again.
Yep. There's Alive there on the right side, Deer at left. His team's getting pumped up here, just getting a few profile shots of these players. And we're going to take a look at today's matchup today in just a moment because that's what we really need to talk about here. eMotion versus San. Very, very tough matchup for eMotion. San has so much more experience, especially in Protoss versus Protoss. Then going into Solar versus Curious. A lot of people favor Solar here, but Curious has a better recent result. Then Deer versus Life. Now, that's a pretty exciting matchup because Life gets to play ZVP. And Deer, you know, he looks like he might be coming back to form a little bit.
Yeah, man, Deer, he had an amazing game against Hero. The first game they played in Pro League, he actually beat Hero. He impressed a lot of people. He impressed me, definitely. Cannot wait to see what he can do against Zerg. And, of course, in that fourth game, we're going to have Hurricane versus Linux, a PvZ there once again. Going to be a great one. And then we're going to go into Merry-Go-Round for the Ace Match map.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at our standings. CJ Indus with their win yesterday. It takes a 3-0 perfect score with a +5 indicator. SKT, on the other hand, is 2-1 with +3. Jenner taken third, and Samsung, you know, just one indicator point behind, is at a +1 here. But, of course, both teams will be playing today, so that's going to change. StarTale, they're at the -2 indicator. They're 1-1, as well as MVP. So important matches for those two teams. And KT Rolster bringing up the rear there in 7th place. And Prime all the way in last at 0-3 with a -4.
Yeah, Prime is starting to show some of their better players that they brought for this season, but they still just have not had that luck to win a match just yet. You know, look towards round 4, or not round 4, round 2, maybe round 3 for them to really come along there. Really interesting for today. The 4 teams that we're going to have playing are all 1-1. They have different indicator scores, so this is really going to shake up where all the teams lie in the standings today.
Yeah. It's a really important day. You know, it's our 3rd week here, and once this is settled, you kind of get to find out, you know, some teams look like they have no chance of making it, and indicator points are everything. They're so important right now. Let's jump into our coach interview here. So it looks like we're going to be hearing from Stork for Samsung, of course, starting things off.
안녕하세요. 네, 송병국 코치님. 먼저 새해 복 많이 받으시고요.
Says Happy New Year.
네. 감사합니다. 오늘 엔트리를 보니까 프로토스 선수가 3명이나 있어요. 특별한 이유가 있는 선택이
There are
있나요?
3 Protoss players in your entry tonight. What is the reason for that?
실험적인 엔트리라고 주변에서 많이 말씀하시는데 저는 팀원들에 대한 실력적 믿음은 다 있고요. 이제 다 있는 상태에서 상대 팀.
He trusts every player on his team.
프로토스 선수들이 별로 없다 보니까 아무래도 연습하는데 지장이 있지 않을까.
People say we kind of try to test our players in the roster.
네, 그 반대로 ST-YOE는 3저그 선수가 3명이나 나왔어요.
So,
특별한 이유가
of course,
있으신
3
건가요?
Zergs coming in here for StarTale-yoe. We have strong Terran players, well, a strong Terran player. So, Legend actually feels like we didn't really need any Terran players today.
네, 감독님.
Mentioning mostly Bomber, of course, and of course Hack, I guess, as well, he could be mentioning. Didn't really
Live as
feel like
well.
he needed them. Yeah, Live's here too, don't forget him. And it's Legend's birthday, so happy birthday to Legend. And he's saying thanks to all the fans who came all the way down to the studio. A lot of people giving gifts here, and cakes and things of that nature. The players in our team told me that they prepared a present for me. Maybe it's actually the victory for today's match.
축하의 한 말씀 부탁드려요.
Or maybe it's the opposite. Dark tone there at the end.
생일 축하드리고요. 네, 사실 생일인지 여기 와서 알았어요.
Legend and I go way back, Stork says.
친하신 거 아니었나요?
But he only found out that it was his birthday when he came to the studio.
친하진 않고.
But he does want to say congratulations and happy birthday.
상대 팀으로서 생일 선물 줄 수 있는 게 생일이 이제 저녁이잖아요.
But as the opposing team tonight,
도 뭔데 빨리 보내드리는 게 제일 선물인 것 같아가지고 팀원들이랑.
the only present he can give him is sending him home early.
빠른
possible 3-0.
빠른 기간가요? 아니면 승리와 곁들인 빠른 기간가요?
아 저희 팀이요?
승리와 함께.
You guys losing 3-0 or winning 3-0? She asks.
져야죠. 원래 생일빵 맞는 거잖아요. 네.
그래서
StarTale has to
예상
lose,
스코어가 어떻게
Stork
되나요?
says.
스코어 상관없이 그냥
최대한 빨리 3대0.
네, 저희 팀원들을 믿기 때문에 3대0이면 좋고.
No matter what the score is, he's going to try to end the match as soon as possible.
네, 과연 어떤 팀이 2승을 차지하게 될까요? 지금까지 아유리였고요. 중계진 나와주세요.
아마도 이선종 감독은 하고 싶은 얘기가 조금 더 있었던 것
So,
같은데 바로 중계진으로 넘어.
And we just saw these two coaches have a long history with each other. Some
Oh
very
my
young
god, that's
fans
the
here.
cutest girl I've ever seen.
The cutest little fans down there. StarCraft, a game for players and fans of all ages. So we saw that Stork and Legend are close friends. You know, they have a long-lasting relationship. Funny that Stork mentions they didn't know it was his birthday until he came down to the studio. I actually didn't know either, even though I've known Legend since the first day I've been in Korea. So, you know, just some extra added pressure, I guess, on Legend here, as it is his birthday. And sometimes we have this happen in Pro League where it's someone's, 6th-year anniversary of being a pro gamer, or 600th day, or some of arbitrary denomination about what it is.
2000th day since debut.
Yeah.
Off hero. We did get a bag full of.
Who ate that, by the way? Who did that?
Yeah, I was pointing that out to you. Who got hungry and ate it early?
Who ate it? It looks like Life might be the guilty party here. Did you eat that, Life? He says no. He says it wasn't him. He looks pretty innocent, but I don't know. He might just be really good at lying.
Life's sneaky, man. You see what he can do with the Zerglings.
Yeah.
You haven't seen what he can do with a fork to some cake, man. But as well as that, we also got a little basket here of gifts, some coffee, as well as some snacks, because they know that we love to eat a snack during the break.
Yes, that they do. I'm not sure what the occasion is, though, for the Samsung team.
Yeah, I don't.
They gave us gifts. I mean, they must just really like us. I'm not sure. But it might be because it's Legend's birthday and they just want to give everyone presents because it's Legend's birthday. I really
Who knows,
don't
man?
know.
It says Pro League Fighting 2015 and it's in English, so maybe it was just gifts to us. But
well, Pro League Fighting, man. That's how I
seriously.
feel.
Yeah.
Get out there, spread the word. Get your friends to follow this Twitch channel. There's an Azubu channel as well. By the way, a lot of people, if you have problems with the Twitch stream, Usually they resolve pretty quickly, but if you're freaking out and you're stressing out and for some reason like Twitch is working for your friends but it's not working for you, there's always that alternative stream to watch on the Zubu. The quality there is really good. Tasis and Artos is oftentimes chatting in that channel, so you might be able to get in there and chat with them as well. So, if you can't get that working on Twitch, definitely recommend the Zubu channel. But watch either one or watch both. It really doesn't matter. Let's introduce these players.
eMotion coming in here for Samsung Galaxy Con as the first player. He's played 5 games in total in Pro League. I believe the rest of the games were from last season. I remember coming out a bunch. And he did not the greatest. He was kind of, especially, last year, Samsung Galaxy had a lot of those bigger name players. They had Roro in that lineup as well. That just come out like every single time. So eMotion did not get as much time in the booth. But he showed his face from time to time. He's just one of those mid-level Protosses we haven't seen much of. A younger guy. Looks a little bit nervous in the booth.
Yeah, that he does. Well, San has only played 1 Pro League match. No PvPs just yet, but he did win his first Pro League match. And this guy is coming off of so much momentum. He did incredibly well in WCS Europe. When he came back to Korea in the GSL Global Tournament, he shocked Korean fans because people were expecting that because he was traveling, because he was in another region that's considered weaker than Korea, he might not still be in form. But oh boy, did he prove everybody wrong. This guy is still a top Protoss player, a force to be reckoned with, and absolutely the favorite going into this Protoss versus Protoss.
Yeah, man, I don't think you need to show the predictions tonight for this matchup to see who is definitely favored in this matchup.
All right, guys, let's go into game number 1. Samsung versus StarTale-yoe.
Up here in the top left of Sejong Station, the red Protoss, he is eMotion.
And over to the bottom right in blue for StarTale-yoe, it's San. San, of course, known for his aggressive play.
That he is. He had that 1 win in Pro League, but he actually got knocked out of the SSL by Myungshik in a PvP 3-0. So maybe not his strongest matchup, or maybe Myungshik just really took him for a ride. I remember that matchup actually. Myungshik was playing super smart, and San didn't really know how to deal with it. I feel like San will have a bit of an easier time here against eMotion, but again, maybe PvP isn't his strongest matchup.
No, definitely a possibility that he's having some tough times in that right now. But what happens oftentimes when you lose in an SSL, you lose in a Star League with a poor score, is you go home and you say, I've got problems with this matchup. I need to work on that. I need to fix this right now. So that's something that you come into your next PvP matchup thinking, okay, I'm kind of glad that I'm doing this matchup because I've been working so hard for the past week to fix my problems in this matchup. Myungshik himself is a whole nother beast, though. You're playing PvA in that matchup, as in all in. Santos is best. By the way, some fans down here thinking he is.
Pretty accurate drawing there.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Let's not count eMotion out either. We haven't seen him yet this season. He's also a player that, he didn't give the best performances last season, but obviously someone they relied on from time to time, and he's probably doing well in-house. Stort calls him out today.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to see this team come out and play time and time again, like I said before, just because, Samsung, honestly, they're a big sponsor. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of people in that house trying to get these guys ramped. And after losing some of their key players, notably Roro, they're really trying to bring this team along. And some of the players we even saw last week that came out, Armani, Hurricane, those guys really impressed. And I was like, wow, they're actually trying. A lot of these lower level, mid-tier guys on Samsung are really starting to pull their weight and starting to come out here and play really well.
Yeah. The lineup is really starting to come together. It's a shame we don't have Stork and Roro, actually in there as well. At the end of last year, I was really feeling like Samsung might be, CJ level at the start of this season, just because the way that the team was coming together, as well as reality was really starting to pull his weight. But we get an early scout here for San. And it looks to be that he is going to do a Sentry expand, something that will be scouted as well here by eMotion. They both send early probe scouts out at around the same time, getting in good vision here. Will not see the Sentry, so he's not going to be certain about this expand.
Yeah, that's the one thing. It was pretty much mirrored builds up until the scouts came into the base, and we saw the Stalker being made as well as that Sentry, but not getting that scene. An immediate Twilight Council is dropped by eMotion, and a slightly later one by San here.
Yeah. And, you know, with both players going into Twilight Council, there's a lot of flexibility with this. It's the most, I guess it's the most common tech you see in PvP. I wouldn't call it standard because there's not really a standard for PvP. You can play whichever way you want. Every map is different. And, you know, just posturing a little bit, these two players. San is going to go for a follow-up scout with his Mothership Core around the top right here. And the Mothership Core of eMotion is back at home defending. He starts Blink. 2 additional gates coming up for San, and he does the same.
Yeah, the Blink is pretty much even there, but, you know, when both players are going Blink, even the difference of 3 seconds can make a huge difference. If the Stalkers are fighting and it finishes during that fight, it can make a huge difference. But look at this. Mothership Core coming in here for San. He gets the scout on the Twilight Council, sees the Chrono Boost as well, so he's got to know this is Blink coming his way.
Yep. It's going to cost him big, though, because that Mothership is very low on hit points now, as well as it doesn't have, you know, a ton of energy to defend. However, since he knows what he's up against, he's going to have the same, and he has the same tech. He's probably feeling pretty confident that he doesn't necessarily need a Mothership Core to actually defend this. He can defend with his own Stalkers should eMotion decide to attack. Now, as it is, he's going to show a fake Oracle here because he knows eMotion doesn't have a scout. eMotion's actually tight-walling this just in case of DTs. And here comes that Oracle in. He's going to, you know, run those Stalkers back potentially, but once he realizes it's fake, is just going to resume playing normally.
You know what? Because that Oracle did not attack even once, I think he's got to have a certain idea here that that's probably fake, unless he's just freaking out a bit. He immediately puts down that expand. When behind this back at San's base, he's just making Stalkers as well as that robotics facility. But both these guys get in a robotics facility around the same time once again. And that scout with the probe, all it sees is a bunch of Stalkers here.
Yeah, what that also tells him is that San doesn't have a Nexus, and that San was also considering the possibility of DTs because he saw those Stalkers on the ramp like that, which means that he's probably getting, you know, his robo up, getting his own detection. So at this point, eMotion can assume, wow, it's a fairly similar build to what I've done, except he doesn't have a Nexus, and he probably has more Stalkers. So what I need to do is get my Immortals out. I've already got one. Get that second one out, and make sure that I can hold my Nexus.
Yeah, and I'm really worried here for San because it's a great point you made that Nexus is actually going to be so important because San has actually not gotten the scout on the Nexus just yet. So he's just going to put his up right now, being a bit more defensive. His observer is coming across the map. Once he sees the timing of that Nexus, he's not going to be that happy, especially when he sees the Immortal as well, which he also doesn't have. Yeah,
when he sees the Immortals, he's going to have to make a choice here. If he just decides he wants to sit back, then he's just going to accept being behind, essentially. Now he sees a Nexus. That's frustrating. And he might go, okay, well, maybe I need about my Stalkers. But when he sees those Immortals, he's going to know that's not a possibility for him anymore. In fact, I don't know if he's even going to see those Immortals. He didn't actually see them. And his own observer is about to get sniped.
Uh-oh.
Okay, it looks like it might escape. That was a close call. But a good eye there by eMotion to see
Seems like, yeah, eMotion has seen it, but it has just slipped by through the mineral line, and San, he's made his own Immortal here. eMotion decides to start a second one, and San wants to put on the aggression, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work. You know, we got the second Immortal. It's going to pop by the time these Stalkers are over here. He's got that Mothership Core with full energy, can put down a Nexus Cannon really easily, and he's going to have a pretty good defense here.
Oh, you know, he doesn't have that second Immortal, though, yet. I thought he did. Okay, well,
it's coming out.
It's a ton of Stalkers, though. 11 Stalkers here. Could definitely make something work. He's going to go over here and pop in, see if he can get some damage done. I don't think he's going to get that Forge. He's going to fight these Stalkers with a better count and slowly blink out. Not the damage he wanted, though. If he could trap some units in the main base, that would be huge, but both players have blink. He needs to trap that Immortal. And so far, the micro here by San is excellent. Great decision-making here to just trap that Immortal. Gets one. His own Immortal is coming to join the fight. He traps another Immortal out. It's exposed here, and it gets targeted. This is exactly what San wanted.
Yep, he forces that Nexus Cannon, gets both of those Immortals, and now he's got an Immortal of his own. He's just now Chrono Boosting on the Nexus, though. He's going to still put on the pressure. He's not making any Immortals to follow this up, where eMotion is desperately trying to get those out for the defense.
Guardian Shield here for San, missing for eMotion. He warps in the Sentry, but it's not going to have enough energy for that. That Immortal at the front in the perfect spot to do massive amounts of damage to those Stalkers, but another Immortal comes up for eMotion. He targets the Immortal of San, and up here at the north, that Immortal does a lot of damage and eventually pushes San back here, and he holds for now. Worker counts right now for these two, 42 to 39, slightly in favor of San, who's taking his third and fourth gases right now.
Yeah, actually a very even fight. I like the idea by San to go in there and attack while the Immortals were down. He knew another Immortal was on the way, and even though the Nexus Cannon was still up, he still felt confident to try to pick off a lot of the Stalkers with his own Immortal, and he did do that, but once that second Immortal came out from eMotion, it was able to pick off a couple of Stalkers there, and just basically, as you guys can see by the supplies right now, it's pretty even.
Yeah. +1 finishes slightly faster here for eMotion. And because San knows he killed the Observer earlier, he can actually come up here no matter what. And he's going to take the better Stalker fight. Comes in, tries to pick off a few of these warping in Stalkers. He's going to get a better trade and to pick off a Zealot as well. Needs to be careful not to stick around too long, but could just blink out. Ooh, misblink on one of those Stalkers. And that's going to cost him that one. And the +1 also hurting him a little bit there. It was a good idea, and it started out pretty well for him, but I think he probably would have wanted to leave a little bit sooner. Back at home, he has the Bay first, so he could start his Colossi first. He has range coming up first, and those 3 gates are coming, but this Immortal is not going the right way.
Oh, that was so scary, man. You cannot lose spare Immortals just walking out on the map for free. This matchup is so volatile, so even right now. We're having actually eMotion move out on the map. He is very confident after picking off a lot of those Stalkers.
He's going to catch this Immortal potentially.
Oh my god.
He's scared to blink forward because he doesn't know where San's Stalkers are, and this is why. Blinks forward right into a bunch of San's Stalkers, but not enough. And he still takes the better trade and gets into a good position here.
He's got a great position. He's got the bigger number in Stalkers right now. He's done a lot of damage to that Immortal. But as you guys do see here, he's throwing down a third base. He's also getting Colossi out. It doesn't look like he's trying to end the game right now. He's just putting on the pressure and trying to get ahead in economy back at home.
Yeah, you know, he's just trying to keep San on the defensive right now. They're both going down similar tech paths here. Big blink commitment is going to cost him a Stalker. I don't think he may have gotten 1 probe, but no more than that. And oops, that probe does go down, but it did force a Nexus Cannon. San was very concerned there, and that's actually going to make eMotion feel pretty happy. He's like, wow, he even used a Nexus Cannon there? That's how defensive he feels? My third base, I could probably get it up. If he's going to sit back and be this defensive, this cautious, then I can take that third base and get away with it.
San now just posturing here. We do see, as JKS has pointed out to us, the gateway count is highly in favor of San, and he's actually really mustered up a really big army right now. He's actually chasing eMotion on the map. He's got that Colossus, and he knows, or he should at least assume right now, you know, eMotion just seeing all the Stalkers, he's got to assume, okay, he's got something back at home, but I'm not sure. I've got a really strong army. I was able to pick off a couple of those Stalkers. Let me go and poke. Let me try to put on some pressure and see what I can do.
The control we're seeing out of eMotion in the middle of the map is superb. He is showing us some great Stalker pickoffs, some great confidence in how he engages. But with the gateway count, the gateway superiority you were talking about, it's going to be very difficult for eMotion to hold this third base, especially because he's at his natural right now. San will control the low ground, and he may just have to give this base up. San looks like he might just go for the kill. That's why he added those gates. He had no plans to take a third base. Third Colossus pops out, though. That's pretty huge. Charge is done for San first.
Yep, both these guys have +2 as well. And San right now just taking a really nice position over at the third base. eMotion knows he has to give it up. No chance. They're just going to let it go. Sees the double Archon in the mix. He's a bit behind with that Templar Archives. He's got one of his Archons now just morphing, but everything else is pretty even besides the huge Zealot count of San.
Yeah, instead of Zealots, eMotion has favored that larger Stalker force to put that pressure on, and San realizes at this point he's killed a base for free, and he's not going to break this. So he might as well take his own third and move back. He can still posture around here. He has a Mothership core that's got not only enough energy for a Time Warp, but also could potentially recall. Now he's got 2 Time Warps, so we could stick his army around, poke a little bit, make sure there's no other third Nexus. Maybe just try to keep eMotion on the defensive. Kind of similar to what eMotion was doing earlier with the Stalkers, but this time with a big ball of Zealots and Archons with those Colossi. Third base does get planted here again for eMotion, and San is going to threaten the back door.
Nexus Cannon's still up, but he's got a lot of firepower back there. Can take down those rocks. He doesn't fully take them down, actually. bit scared of being out of position. Knows he's got a third base ahead of eMotion right now and has been scouted by a very nice Phoenix hallucination out of eMotion. So he knows the position he's in. Once he did see that, he throws down his own third base, albeit a little bit behind.
Yeah. Bunch more High Templar coming in here for eMotion. A Warp Prism coming in as well. Looks like he wants to start putting on some harass. You know, he has this army that has a higher stalker count. So snipes on key units are a lot easier. You know, you might be able to catch the Mothership Core if San makes a huge mistake, or maybe you can get some serious damage done to a Colossus. But in a real fight, you know, the Zealots arguably are more valuable. And there's that snipe I was talking about on the Mothership Core. That's what you, when you have a bigger stalker count like this sort of thing can happen, and that's exactly what he was looking for.
Do you remember a game yesterday, Zest versus Billowy, same thing happened. Billowy forced the fight anyway. But it looks like San, for right now, he's just trying to be defensive. He's just trying to send in some Zealots for the harass at the same time. But eMotion, he knows he's taking out that Mothership Core, and he's got his own, so he can definitely take this fight as long as he gets into a good position.
Time Warps are everything in this matchup. Oh, one lone Zealot getting some extra harass done because he's so focused. eMotion is so focused right now on this attack. He's in a good position with those Colossi. He wants to force San to move into an unfavorable position because he has those Time Warps. And San doesn't have any High Templar in range to feedback. This is such a difficult position for him right now, but he can feel comfortable just knowing that he's still getting harassment done. He's still hurting the third base. He's forcing eMotion to engage here. Both Guardian Shields going up here. Zealots not getting their full surface area for eMotion, though, and a much better arc on those Colossi.
And now the pros try to come in for San. They're helping tank in the back. All of those Colossi in the back. A 6-1 pops out right now, a much bigger number, and he's beginning to push eMotion back in this fight. eMotion is forced to flee.
I think he got a bit flustered there. His third base was under attack that entire time, and I think he was starting to panic. He didn't have enough defense. He didn't have enough warp-ins because he was warping in for the attack. You know, he had Time Warps, so Time Warps aren't going to help you when your opponent's already set up perfectly and you attack into his position. The Zealots got caught in the back. They weren't really participating in the fight.
Yeah, man. You know, one of the best things about Time Warps is that it bunches up your opponent's army to allow your Colossi to do huge AoE damage, but eMotion bunched up his army for San.
Yeah.
It was all being attacked by all the Colossi in the back. San definitely had the better position, and even though the Time Warps went down, like you were saying, San is able to take that fight. And as is the way of PvP, you take one big fight this late in the game, and you've got 6 Colossi, you can push in for the win.
The rest of this game is essentially a formality, like you're saying, Valdez. GG. And, you know, again, sometimes in PvP, these Warp Prisms can be the deciding factors. Cause someone to panic. The snipes on the Mothership Core, again, these could be deciding factors, but he warped in a big wave of units. He felt like, okay, I'm going to force San to engage. I have the Mothership. I'm going to keep poking his third. But San was doing poking of his own, and it eventually overwhelmed him. That one Warp Prism he had to the top right just kept warping in Zealots, and San was like, I'm going to kill your base. You have to attack. And so if you're the attacker and I already have a concave, I already have an arc, then the Time Warps that you can use against me aren't as important. And as we saw in that fight, some of the Zealots of eMotion actually got caught behind each other. He fought where his army couldn't fan out completely, and it was just a rough fight from there. His Time Warps that he could have used wouldn't really help him all too much.
He used them, and it was weird. The placement of them, it was kind of on the Zealots and on some of the Archons, but it didn't hit a large portion of the army. A lot of the Colossi in the back were unaffected. They were all spread out for San. They were getting huge area of effect damage. And like we were saying before, those nerves, I feel like, coming into play. We see this very often out of some of our younger players that haven't been in the booth that many times. And eMotion just getting flustered at his third base, obviously being forced into attacking, and just not doing the best job of it. But San, the player we thought was favored, he comes out ahead.